Բարի երեկո սիրելի բարեկամներ։ Այսօրվա մեր հարցազրույցն է Los Angeles School District։ Ինչպես գիտեք, մեր ուսանողությունը սկսան դպրոցներուն եւ դպրոցներու հարցը շատ հարցն է մեր համայնքին եւ մեր քաղաքին համար։ Այսօրվա մեր հյուրն է MARILYN KOZIATEK-ը, որ School District-ի որպես տեխնացու երրորդ դիստրիկտեն գիշնագոր եւ այդ մասին պիտի զրուցենք այսօրվա մեր հայդակի մեջ։ How are you?
Great.
I just make the introduction of
Wonderful.
who you are and so forth in Armenian. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to say a few words to our audience.
Sure. Yes, I'm MARILYN KOZIATEK. I'm running for Los Angeles Unified School Board District 3, which is in the San Fernando Valley. And one of the big reasons why I'm running is because I'm a working mom. And if elected, I would be the only school board member with children actually in LAUSD. And I also work at Granada Hills High School, one of the highest performing schools in our city, maybe even our state. And it's important for me to have excellence in education and to have really high quality schools. So for me, this running for this board seat is about advocating for our kids and for our children. As a mom, it's something I feel really passionate about. And also ensuring high quality education for all children.
Meryl, what is your background? Let's find out. I know you were telling me before the show some interesting about your background, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, and I'd like our audience to know, what's your background?
Yeah. So I left the United States, my family and I, we left when I was 8 years old, and we moved to Sarian, which is in West Africa.
Right.
We were doing humanitarian missions, things like building school buildings and setting up prenatal clinics. And then we moved to Pakistan, and then I went to high school in Kathmandu, Nepal. So what brought me to our great city of Los Angeles is actually the University of Southern California, which is where I attended university and got a bachelor's in business administration. And I settled here, raised my family, got married, and moved to the San Fernando Valley, where now I'm, raising 2 boys.
So you're a local person, even though you traveled the whole world, between Africa and Asia and so forth. But you live in the valley. You're a valley person.
I live in the valley.
So you want to run for a seat in the valley?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Who's the incumbent right now?
So the incumbent is Scott Schmirlson. He's been elected for 5 years.
Why you want to run against him?
Well, for me, this is, it's really important for me to have the voice of a parent on the LAUSD school board. I mean, the fact is, none of them have children. There's 7 of them. None of them have children in Los Angeles.
You're a parent, so you understand the issues facing children, and as a parent, you're going to bring that perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it. Since none of them have children in the school district, this distance learning that we're doing in the pandemic, none of them have experienced what us parents have to go through, where we have to juggle work and we have to do the schooling at home and manage daycare and all of those things. I think that real world experience would be really important for our school board to make decisions.
I mean, these days, it just, for me as a parent, myself, I'm a parent too, it's such a extraordinary situation. I mean, I never seen anything like this in my life. Obviously, neither anybody else. But my daughter, who I have she's studying at home. It just brings so much burden on the families, and so how are you going to deal with that? Are we going to be here for this situation now for a while, or what? What's the situation?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I mean, I think there's a few things that we have to consider. One is, what is this pandemic? Where is it going to take us? Where, scientifically speaking, and consulting with our epidemiologists and our public health officials, no one wants to put our children at risk, but there are things such as working parents like myself having to be able to pay for daycare and access daycare. I think the district needs to prioritize those types of needs, and for those kids, especially those kids that are falling really far behind, if they have language barriers and they would really benefit it to be in the classroom.
I agree 100% because my daughter always, even though she's studying at home, but she always wants to play, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Plus, she's missing her friends.
There's a social emotional aspect.
Exactly, socially active with her friends, and that's something we're missing. But again, we're in a pandemic. This is almost 7 months, 6 months of this. and for the rest of this school year, it's going to be from home, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we have to be able to look at it as not just a like all or nothing. I think we need to be able to have a really solid plan about reopening that includes a very scientific perspective, but it's a very slow and staged reopening, you know, where, for instance, for vulnerable groups, and then also younger groups, you know, there's things about fluency, language fluency for the very young students where, you know, in classroom settings will be most beneficial. And I work at a high-performing high school. You know, we gave our students Chromebooks 5 years ago, so they're so used to this, you know, doing some online learning. That process wasn't as hard for our school as for other schools because we had already integrated technology. So I think that there's things that we could be learning about too, about how we can innovate during this time to use it for when things actually do return to normal and making sure we're technologically advanced.
What is your you know, vision for the school if you're elected, if you're given that chance by the voters of the Valley, of San Fernando Valley?
Yeah.
What is your vision?
So I have so many ideas, but I like to boil it down to 3 because, again, from my perspective as a mom and someone that works in a really high-performing school, I think one of the most important things is really having a strong relationship with our parents and our community. I think that we really need to be able to listen to our local stakeholders and be able to make decisions at the local level that really benefit our schools. So for me, that is vital, and that's something I would prioritize. And I have experience in doing parent engagement work at the school that I'm a part of. And my second thing is fiscal responsibility. You know, we were talking about the budget.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I was going to ask you next. What is the budget of the school district?
Yeah, so it's nearly $9 billion.
I mean, $9 billion.
Yes.
I mean, folks, you hear that? $9 billion is our budget.
Yeah, it's a lot of taxpayer money, and we are responsible for educating nearly 700,000 students in our public school system. So, you know, we're preparing the workforce of the future. We are preparing our children for college and career and things that are coming next. This is a big responsibility. That money, we need to make sure that it's closest to the classroom so that our students are really able to thrive. And what I've seen with LAUSD is there's a lot of waste and abuse and mismanagement.
So you're going to bring some fiscal responsibility to the budget because within that $9 billion budget, there's a lot of waste and things that can be done better and hopefully save to the taxpayers the money.
Yeah, and then the final thing for me is really it's about you know, this concept of innovation and technology and making sure our children are prepared for the workforce of the future. I'm a big proponent in STEM, you know, science, technology, engineering, and math, robotics, really partnering with our higher ed, higher education, like our community colleges and our four-year universities to make sure our kids are ready for a program of study that will equip them for the workforce. So I love to see, you know, especially even arts and creativity, you know, arts funding, creativity, music programs, these types of skills of creativity are things that are really going to help our children thrive in this future economy. So I love to be focused on that. When my son graduates from high school, it will be the year 2031. So I'm like, let's think about the future and how we're going to prepare our kids for that.
So clearly the future is in technology, and we're seeing that on a day-to-day basis. So you're going to put big emphasis on technology in the school, in the classroom.
It's important for me. I've seen how it helps the students at Granada Hills High School where I work to have a device, and also being able to be really good digital citizens is what we call it, where they're able to really use the technology to benefit their life. And I think that all of our children should have that same access. Yeah.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about your specific ideas, how to improve things. Clearly, you're putting a new vision to the school district, and you're a parent, which is an important key factor, whereas the rest of the team have no children and no experience being a parent. So we'll do that when we come back, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Sire paygamber gash satarma bidarek ye bidi veratanak berhaydakrin. Սիրելի բարեկամներ, այսօրվա մեր հայտակիրն է Los Angeles School District-ը ընտրություններուն մոտ ենք, մի մեկ ամիսեն ավելի կամ մեկ ամիս 3 օրվա մեջ ընտրություններ կան եւ այդ ընտրությունները հատկապես School District-ի համար մեր աշակերտներուն համար Valley-ի մեջ հայահոց Coyote Valley, Coyote եւ մեր տեխնացուն է MARILYN-ը, MARILYN KOZIATEK-ը, այս մասին պիտի զրուցենք իր հետ as ուսուցչական հարցի մասին։ As an introduction, I was talking, you're from the Valley, you're from Granada Hills, and you traveled all over the world, you have experience in that. What is your specific agenda or vision for the school? Because clearly it is a huge bureaucracy, it moves very slowly, and $9 billion, you get huge amount of bureaucratic infrastructure. So how do you make different than the rest of them cannot make?
Yeah. It's a great question. You know, I think that, yes, like you said, there's a big bureaucracy. And I've seen some progress in the past where they've implemented a model called the community of schools, which has kind of positioned some of the schools into smaller communities in LAUSD. And I'm a big supporter of that. What I would like to see is, instead of just giving it a name, let's let the decisions follow. So let's really make sure that those communities are able to make decisions about their budget, about their choices and programs. You know, for instance, dual immersion languages. Some of our communities, like our Armenian community, would benefit from having dual immersion schools. So we would be able to have local communities make decisions for their schools. So that is something I will empower as a board member, empower our local schools to make decisions. And it goes back to that money too, being able to decide how they want to spend their dollars on those classrooms. So that's going to be a big issue.
So
for
you
me.
will watch the budget to make sure
Yeah.
the budget is well spent, there's no waste or any abuse in the budget process.
Yeah, accountability is big. And this is the thing with the LAUSD board. You know, there's 3 areas of responsibility. One is the hiring of the superintendent. One is setting policy for the district as a whole. And the third one is the budget. So the buck literally stops with
the board.
With the board.
How many people on the board?
There's 7.
7 board members. And the board selects the superintendent, hires and fires
Exactly.
the superintendent.
Yeah.
Okay. And the budget process, how is it pretty much, it goes with the assumption that whatever they spend in the past cannot justify spending in the future, or how does it work?
Yeah, the district presents a budget to the board. You know, and so there's a whole financial, school finances is quite a complex machine. You know, most of the funding comes from the state of California. We get some funds from federal, some from local dollars, but most of it comes from the state of California. And so this big behemoth, $9 billion, you know, it actually is it's not a very transparent budget. I think that's actually
So most people know, the taxpayers don't know where this money goes.
It's hard for just a regular constituent parent to be able to really truly see how that money is spent. And actually that would be really the first step, is transparency in the budget. And there's ways we can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it the payroll salaries is the big chunk of that money for teachers?
It's true. It is. And you know, we absolutely adore our teachers, and it's a tough job, especially now with the pandemic. Our teachers are working very hard. So while that is a big part of the budget, it is, you know, our teachers and our staff work very hard. But what we would see if we could take a really deep look into that budget is that amount that's wasted by the bureaucracy. I think
So you're going to look at the budget, see if there's any waste in the dollars, and cut those wastes from the budget in the budget process.
Right, and that's, you know, and we talked about, you know, STEM and arts programming, things like that. You know, there's research shows that when children are engaged with learning and doing things that they love, like arts, their learning increases in their academic subjects, in math and in English. So it's all this holistic approach to education where, you know, our children are very supported in the school, and that's why we have to keep the dollars closest to the classroom.
What about quality of teachers? I mean, how do you put a system in place that, number one, the teachers are qualified, the teachers are well trained, and you keep the good ones? But isn't the union is a big issue?
Yeah.
If you want to take the bad apple out, you can.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of, especially with an organization that has 60,000 employees, 30,000 of them are teachers. So it's a lot, right? But I think that's one of the reasons why I really want to empower our local schools, because I've seen, especially even for hiring decisions, right? If you look at this, the process for hiring in the district, it's very bureaucratic. And but if our local schools could have some say, and especially even their leadership, even principals that are hired, if you have a really strong school site leader or principal who has a very strong vision for the school, then the whole community benefits. So I think that should actually be a part of the hiring process too. Because look, our communities know what's best for our kids. So they should be the ones making some decisions.
What is the criteria? I mean, when you guys hire a teacher, I mean, what is credentials, teaching credentials?
Yes.
Education, experience. So those are the key criteria in hiring the teacher.
Yeah, all of those processes. But I think, I just want to make space in that for the local community, and I don't think it's strong right now in the district.
I'm gonna move to another, maybe a touchy subject, but let's discuss it. There's clearly a movement toward charter school and so forth as an alternative to the school district. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I work at a charter school. It's a high-performing, high-quality charter school, and I believe that parents know what's best for their children. So I do believe in school choice, where I think that our communities need high-quality schools. And the district has magnets and affiliated charters and independent charters, and there's all sorts of different formats that we have in our communities. If they're serving children well, that's the most important question. Is your school really, are the kids thriving and are they learning? So as a board member, I want to look at that before we look at some of the more, and it's been politicized quite a bit in Los Angeles. But I want to keep going back to that as a mom, being like, look, is this school serving kids well, regardless of what bucket it falls in?
It falls. I mean, whatever your children, your child will get the better education. In this segment, the last point, I'm going to talk about safety. Because we're living in an environment, God forbid, shootings, and these horrible things. Because you think as a parent, your child is safe at school. I mean, the last thing any parent thinks is the safety of their child in school. What's your plan? What are your plans to make our schools in your district and schools within LASD safe?
Yeah. No, it's a really important, because if children aren't safe, they're not learning, right? So that's an important and vital part of our school community. And I think we have to be able to look at safety in a holistic way. The school that I work for, there's a host of people there that are helping keep children safe. School nurses, we have 2 full-time school nurses, 2 social workers, we've got psychologists on staff, and we're really able to train our, the teachers and the on-site administrators on how the whole school climate together can foster safety. And so for me, I think it's really about looking at it as a whole, like the whole process. Because in this day and age, there's things like cyberbullying that are threats. Yes. Honestly, the biggest way that we're able to keep our kids safe is from really informing other children and our youth on how to talk to a trusted adult about the cyberbullying.
Right, it's a big thing.
It's a big thing. So they need to develop trust in the adults. We need to be able to deal with those really tough issues, weapons and gun violence threats. Right. And the best way for all of that is prevention, which means building trust in the community.
We're going to take a break.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're at the end of our second segment. it's going pretty fast. We're having great discussion about the schools and children and issues that concerning parents. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the campaign, where you are in the campaign, and what you're asking the voters to do.
Great.
Obviously, to vote, number one, to get up to vote. Second, vote for you. Those are the key points. So we'll take a break and we'll come back, we'll discuss that. Սիրելի պայգամներ, գազ շատարմը վիդարնենք և բիդի վերատանանք մեր այսօրվա հայդակրին։ Սիրելի պայգամներ, այսօրվա մեր հայդակիրն է ընդրությունները և հատկապես ուսանողական կամ ուսուցչական ընդրությունները և School District-ին բորդի անդամներու ընդրությունը այս նոյեմբերին։ Եվ այսօրվա մեր հյուրն է Մարիլյանը, որ Granada Hills շրջանին է և այդ district-ին որպես տեխնացու է։ Marilyn, we're coming at the end of our show and end of our segment. Why should the voters vote for you, as opposed to the other guy or other two guys that running?
Yeah.
And I know one thing you said, they're not parents, you're a parent.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a very important fact, that you
Yeah.
understand the issues. And myself as a parent, we have different issues than someone who has no kids, has no understanding of that,
Yeah.
especially a single parent like me. So clearly is a major concern for us as parents.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's so vital that our school board has the voice of a parent. You know, they're in charge of our children's education. So, and it shouldn't be just only one board member. It would be great if there were more. So I think that that's a pretty important thing for voters to take into account. We need someone that has skin in the game, and that would be me. The other thing that's really important about my experience and expertise is that I work in a school right now in the year 2020.
So you know the issues because you're there in the school.
And especially during what we've just been experiencing with distance learning. You know, this is, we need to have that type of experience, that boots on the ground of people that have survived and are going through this to make the best, most urgent decisions for kids. And, you know, schools have changed over the years. And I think we need to have somebody like myself who can bring that expertise, that real world expertise. And I have experience in things like digital communication technology. That's what I help with my school that I work at. I think our board could use someone that understands this digital technology and how powerful it can be for our parents and for our kids.
What would you, if you're elected tomorrow, what would you do? What's your first order of business, let's say?
Start
Would
talking.
you ask the other 6 guys to come to the meeting
Right.
and this is what I want?
Yeah. Well,
take charge.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think the board's been talking about distance learning enough. I would want a meeting, and we have to talk about the plan, the reopening plan. We have to talk about what's going well in distance learning, what isn't going well. It's an urgent crisis that we have to deal with, and I haven't seen our board move with much urgency. And a big part of that, I would start talking to our local stakeholders, our teachers, our principals, our parents, our students, to start getting feedback. One of the things that I do well at the school that I'm at right now is constantly getting feedback in a two-way dialogue.
So you will listen to the parents?
I would listen.
What their concerns are, their
Yeah.
issues are. So you'll be one of those board members that you solicit the community's input.
Absolutely. It's so important to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you reduce the budget? I mean, I know it's a touchy question, but would you say, well, we wasted $500 million, so I'm going to return back to the state $500 million?
I'm not going to lie. I will start digging into that budget as soon as I
You're
possibly.
fiscally conservative.
Yeah, I want to talk to the finance team and say, let me see it. I want to see
Because
this.
I always hear the school district saying, well, we short up money, or we need more money, give us more money to the state, as opposed to saying we're going to live within our means, you know.
Yeah.
They don't say that. They always say, well, we need more money.
Yeah.
Or let's increase taxes, we need more money.
Yeah, and so I think it's important because we do have to restore trust in our community and our taxpayers about how that money is being spent. That's what the board is. The board needs to do that. So it would be about looking at it, being able then to communicate to the public, and then make a really responsive budget based on our local feedback.
How's your campaign going?
Honestly, the campaign, this is a tough year. There's a lot of suffering going on.
Right.
A lot.
People are suffering
Yes.
pandemic.
The pandemic.
A lot of people are out of work,
Yes.
and unemployment rate is high. Clearly, it's a tough year.
It's
I
a
agree
tough
with
year.
that. It's very,
And
very difficult year in the country.
yeah, it is. But despite that, I think what I've noticed in my campaign is, it's been successful. I passed the primary in March, which I was one of the top 2 vote getters, and so now we're in this runoff on November 3rd is when we vote. But what I've noticed is that our voters are really responding to the fact that I'm a mom, and
Right.
people we want to feel heard. We want someone who can be a champion, who can really stand up for
To
our
their
kids,
issues.
for the
Because
issues.
you get it because
Yeah.
you're a mom. You understand the concern the parents
Yeah.
have, and you're passionate about it, about children, education, and so forth.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this again. It's not a tough question, but it's just people use school district as a stepping stone to higher office. Are you planning this as a stepping stone for future aspiration?
No, I mean,
in assembly or some other position within the state?
yeah, I never envisioned myself running for political office like this. But when people started, the community, parents started asking me, maybe you should run, and I started thinking about it, and I took the leap. I did it for our kids, because in my head I said, look, if not now, then when, and if not our kids, then who? It's so important. So for me, that's what I have my eyes set on.
On the school district.
That's what I am so passionate about, is making sure that our kids do well.
Have you studied the curriculum of the school district? I mean, you envision changing it or modifying it?
Again, for this nearly 700,000 students, that's a lot of beautiful diversity in our city. And for me, when it comes to an overarching question about curriculum, I think that we have to be able to talk to our local stakeholders. Every community has a different thoughts on it. So when we've looked at all different types of curriculum, and if it's one that's really truly high quality, preparing our kids for the future and sensitive to to our local communities, then that's what I envision.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question regarding the teachers, quality of our teachers, because we discussed their training and so forth.
Yeah.
I know it's difficult to make a change because of the union and protection and so forth. If you, in your position, I'm assuming you're going to be elected, obviously, would you advocate firing of teachers that are not good, so to speak, or incompetent, let's say? I mean, sometimes, people keep incompetent people even though they need to go. It's bad for the school district.
Yeah.
Would you take that stance that you're going to make the unions mad at you?
It's a great question, and I think it's something that, like I said,
to improve the quality,
Yeah.
because in the name of quality, obviously we need to be fair to people. You just don't want to willy-nilly fire someone.
That's the danger, right? Is the oversimplification of it, and there's always two sides, and I always say, look, I have a second grader and a fourth grader. Besides my family, my son's teachers are the most important people in our entire life, because she's doing so much for our sons.
For your son, yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, we have to be able to take a lot of things into consideration. And even now, where everything is difficult, just all of the school teachers, they started back to day one of their career because they had to start everything over for distance learning. So I would like to see, I think where the district fails a lot is not providing good support for teachers or for families. And I think that that's where we see a lot of the breakdown. I mean, even technology problems, I mean, it's endless. Those types of things that the district should be providing better support, I think that's where we see a lot of the performance problems.
We're almost at the end of our show, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell our audience as well as the voters why they should vote for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the finale, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Well, for me, I am asking for your vote, and the election is on November 3rd. And for me, this election is so important because it's about our kids and our schools, and they are they are our future. And for me, I think we need to elect a champion for kids for school board, and that's me, MARILYN KOZIATEK, ready to advocate for your children.
Well, thank you so much, MARILYN, for being on the show and explaining
Thank
to
you.
our audience, the Armenian community of the Valley,
Yeah.
in your district, why they should vote for you
Yeah.
and why you're the best person will represent them on the school board.
And I mean, I would like to say something quickly about the suffering that's happening in the unrest. Do we have time?
Sure, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I just want to recognize that, this is a very challenging time for the Armenian community. And this unrest that's been happening is a horrible, horrible situation. And I think that, we need to condemn the aggression that has been against the Armenian community. And also, our international community needs to move quickly to broker a ceasefire. But for our local children, our Armenian children here now, I know that they're having to go to school tomorrow, but they're hurting. And so for all of our schools and our teachers that are serving our children, our Armenian children now, they're going to need extra support because this is such a challenging time. And so, we need to be empathetic and being able to support the Armenian community during this time.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful
Yeah.
thoughts and words. That means a lot to us as Armenians, as Armenian Americans. I mean, Armenia is going through a very tough time, and we're under attack, and innocent people are dying every day. So hopefully peace will come to Armenia.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being part of the show. And
Thank
good
you,
luck
Mike.
to you.
Thank you very much.
Սիրելի պայգամներ, ինչպես մերոնեսով իսկապես մեր սիրտը Արցախի եւ Հայաստանի հետ է այսօր կմաղթե մեր քաշտողոց հաջողություն, զորություն եւ մեր պիտի խախտենք. Good night.